Year 9. Okay, hope you got on all right yesterday with labelling the sides and learning the trig triangles. Right, we're going to take it a little step further today, so hopefully you're all prepared. You definitely need to make notes and follow carefully with this. So I've tried to write down all the steps just as I would in the classroom, so we'll give this a go. Right, really important that you have got your calculators. It needs to be a scientific calculator because you need to have sine, cos and tan on your calculator. Okay, so right, so make sure your notes are all up to date. So you'll notice, as from last lesson, I'm going to put these at the top of every page that we do, okay, and just until you're comfortable without having to look at them all the time. But just in the start, we'll always have them. Right, we're going to look at finding a side. Now, to find a side, we need to know an angle, not the right angle, and we need to know one of the other sides. Okay, now, down the side here, I've got my 5 steps to answering trig questions. We do this, I use the same steps for finding a side and finding an angle, which you'll find out next week. Okay, now I would write the steps down. You'll hear me go, this is step 1, this is step 2, okay, so we'll go along with that. Right, so make sure that you've got your steps out, okay, right, sorry, that's the cat just out of the way, okay. Sorry about that. Right, so first of all, you label 2 sides. So I want you to label the one you know and the one you want to know. Don't label 3. There's a reason for this. The 3 trig ratios only ever have 2 of the sides. So opposite and hypotenuse, adjacent and hypotenuse, or opposite and adjacent. So only label 2 sides. So we're going to do this example together. Right, so make sure that this one's out in your exercise book as well. So I want to label the one I know and the one I want to know. So I know this one here, so I know that this one is called the hypotenuse. Okay. And then I've got the one that I want to know. So the one that I want to know is down here. Now, this is the angle in the question. So I can see that it's opposite. So I've got opposite and hypotenuse. Right, so that's step 1, label 2 sides. Step 2 is basically a decision. Step 2 is select sine, cos or tan. Now I look at the 2 I've got hypotenuse and opposite. So going up to here, which of those 3 uses opposite and hypotenuse? And I can see it's this one, sine, because it's got O and H. So I'm going to be using sine. So I've done step 2, I've made the decision. Step 3, write out a formula. Now, we want to know the opposite. So we're going to write out a formula that the subject is the opposite. Okay, so the opposite is, now we know that we're using sine. So we put our finger, okay, over opposite because that's what we want to find. Now, opposite is equal to sine times hypotenuse because they're next to each other. So opposite is sine times hypotenuse. So we're going to write that down, sine times hypotenuse. Now, it's always the sine and whatever the angle is, okay? So maybe put the little angle in there. That kind of would be important if you just put those in there, just because that means sine angle, cos angle, tan angle. Right, so step 3, we've written out our formula. Step 4, substitute in the numbers. Well, I don't know the opposite, that's what I'm wanting to find. So I'm now going to put in sine. Now it's sine and the angle, which is 36. So sine 36 times the hypotenuse, which is 11. Okay, so that's step 4, substitute in the numbers. And then step 5 is the answer given to a given number of decimal places with the correct units. So you're now simply going to type that in your calculator. So we need to put sine 36 times 11. To do that, so you turn the calculator on, you press sine. Now my calculator automatically has a bracket that comes up, and then I'm going to close the bracket off. If you don't, if you've got not a natural display calculator, and it'll just say sine 36 and then that's fine, you can leave it like that. Then you press times 11. Now I've got the answer 6.4656. So I'm going to write that down to a few decimal places. 6.4656. Now I want my answer to 2 decimal places. So I'm going to say 6.47. Never want to get the rounding wrong. Now it must be centimetres because that was centimetres. So there's my final answer. So we've done our first bit of trig there by following the 5 steps. So do make sure that you've got those 5 steps written out. You don't need to write them out again after that. You hopefully can just keep referring to it. Now, this lesson you're going to do a worksheet. Now we're going to do the first 4 questions together. So the worksheet's attached to class materials. Okay, so you can print it off. You won't be able to fit the questions in there, so you will have to do them in your exercise books. Okay, now all the answers I want to 2 decimal places. Be careful with your rounding. Okay. Right, we're going to follow my 5 steps that I said. Now, do you remember? Well, I've turned a new page, so the first thing I'm going to do is put my SOHCAHTOA up. Okay, just so I can refer to it. Okay. Now, step 1. Label 2 sides. Well, I know this one, which is the hypotenuse, and this one now is next to the angle in the question, so it's the adjacent. So just make sure you can see those. So I've got the hypotenuse and the adjacent. Right, now step 2, decide sine, cos, tan. Which one uses A and H? Nope. Yes, so I'm using cos, so I know that I'm going to be using this one. Right, now I need to find how we're going to work out the answer. So I'm wanting to find the adjacent, so I'll put my pinky, excuse my nails everybody, lockdown nails. Right, so adjacent is cos times hypotenuse, so we'll write that formula out. Adjacent is cos, remember the little angle thing, times hypotenuse. So I've written out the formula. After a while you can use A and H, that's fine. Let's just, so you're familiar with everything. So then we're going to put in the numbers. So it's going to be cos 30 and the hypotenuse is 5. Okay, we type that in our calculator. So cos 30, now I'm closing off my brackets there, times by 5. Okay, it gives me 4.33 to 2 decimal places. And that again will be centimetres. Okay, right, let's try the next one. So label the 2 sides. I've got the hypotenuse and I've got the opposite because it's opposite the angle in the question. Right, so hopefully we can see that that's going to be sine because I'm wanting to find the opposite. So you put your finger over opposite. So opposite is sine times hypotenuse. So in this case it's going to be sine 40 times 8. Okay, which will be 5.14 centimetres. Okay. Right. Question 3. Okay. Label the sides. Well, this is the hypotenuse. And this is the opposite. So again, we're using sine. Okay, so opposite is equal to sine times hypotenuse, which will be sine 32 in this case because that's our angle, times by 9, which will be 4.77 centimetres. Okay, I'm actually just changed my mind because, hold on, which one are we trying to find here? Number 4. Oh yeah, right. Number 4, so we're wanting to find the adjacent and we've got the hypotenuse, so we're using cos, so the adjacent is equal to cos times hypotenuse, so that's going to be cos 45 times by 3, which will be 2.12 centimetres. Now, I've just realised we've only got a lot of sine and cos there, so I'm going to change it up a little bit. Okay, and this time I'm going to jump to number 11. Okay, so number 11. So if we look at number 11, so we've got, so number 11, we've got 6.7 centimetres here, and we've got 41 degrees here, and we're wanting to find this side here. So this time we're wanting to find the hypotenuse, and we've got the opposite. So we are using sine, but this time I want to find the hypotenuse. So I'll put my finger over hypotenuse, and hypotenuse is equal to opposite over sine. Okay, notice there, so you put your finger over what you want to know, hypotenuse is opposite over sine. So you simply would have 6.7 over sine, remember always next to that would be sine 41, okay, which will give us an answer of 10.21. Okay, right, what you're going to do is you're going to have a go at those questions. So you don't need to do questions 1 to 4 and number 11. We haven't had any tan ones there, but it's the same principle. You simply, whatever you want to know, whether it's the hypotenuse, the opposite, or the adjacent, you put your finger over it and then work out what the formula is. Now, it may be that you found that quite confusing and you need to work through it again. And watch the video again. You may be ready to have a go at the questions. Once you've got the solutions to the questions, you need to submit them to the assignment and I'll ping you back the answers, okay? Now, I know this is a tricky topic and it is new and it might come across as a little bit confusing, so I do understand that, so bear with it. And like I say, if you're struggling, watch the video again and work through the questions, okay? And then submit the answers to me, okay? Good luck, everyone.